Welcome back to Ocarina of Time 3D. We've conquered forest and fire, so now per the Zelda tradition, we gotta go do something water related. And since we're not really fully equipped right now to explore Lake Hylia properly, that really only leaves one place to go, so let's go pay a visit to the Zoras again.
At least the Gorons don't have to worry about being eaten by a dragon now. Although with Darunia gone, his son is now in charge of the city, and he's pretty much the patriarch of the whole race. Hope he's up to date on his history so we don't get another Dodongo's Cavern incident with the Gorons starving themselves instead of finding another source of food.
Yeah, remember guys, you don't always have to eat gourmet. Pebbles on the floor will do fine.
Surely their tribe will thrive.
You know, I never used this shortcut when I played the game myself back in the day.
I used it all the time. The interconnection between the Zora River, Goron City, and Kokiri Forest all but eliminates pretty much any travel time in Hyrule, because I mean, if you want to go to Kakariko, you just go through Death Mountain. If you want to go anything Zora related, Zora Fountain.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like, why would you even need to use Epona in Twilight Princess when Midna can teleport you everywhere?
Exactly. So, really, you should just be riding Midna everywhere.
Oh god, no. Oh. Zora Domain's frozen over. I guess I'm a speedrunner now.
Alright, so the first thing you're going to learn is triple sword clip. Then after that, you're going to learn how to escape from the forest. Ooh, and if we're done in time, I think we're going to teach you how to do Ganonless. Oh, this is going to be the best playthrough ever.
That's just effort. Can we just talk over video games instead?
I guess.
So yeah, Zora's Domain is frozen over, and if you guessed that Ganondorf was the one who did all this icy business, then ding ding ding, you win the obvious prize. And oh my god, he froze the king! I like to think of this as karma for all those mweeps he subjected us to years ago. 7 long years of that stuck in your head. Yeah, it'll take its toll.
So, believe it or not, back in the day, there were a lot of people who were playing this game day and night trying to figure out how to thaw out the ice. I mean, of course their efforts were totally wasted, because that manpower should have been put instead to discovering glitches beneficial to speedrunning, maybe so we wouldn't have to wait until 2012 to skip the entire adult section.
Interesting fact, apparently, and I'm just like copy-pasting shit from the Zelda wiki here, there actually used to be an ice shrine or sanctuary in this area, but it thawed out and like melted and whatnot. So I guess this is an attempt by Ganondorf to get some nostalgia dollars going.
About those ice platforms, they have a property where if you try to pull yourself up, you'll actually slip back into the water. But the thing is, you can cancel that falling animation with a jump slash. So, actually, you can skip the entire platforming section by climbing onto the last platform and then jump slashing your way on.
What you gonna do? Din's fire, baby.
It is the ice-based dungeon, so have at it.
I kind of wish there were more of these things. I mean, you have this, you've got Bottom of the Well. I guess you could count Gerudo Training Grounds. I like mini dungeons in Zelda games.
The Gerudo Training Ground is completely optional, but we'll get to that later on in the playthrough. Whereas the Master Quest version of the Fire Temple pissed me off to no end, in the Ice Cavern they actually added a lot of changes that I found to be really interesting. And actually, they made the overall mini-dungeon a lot easier. In this room specifically, they removed the spinning scythe blades.
I gotta say, graphically, it looks a lot better than it did in the N64 version.
Oh, definitely. N64 Ice just... it's really bad.
Just like a jagged block of blue, really.
That's pretty much what they did, was like, it was a transparent polygon with a blue shading to it, and there you go. Ice.
Oh god, one of my most hated enemies in the game is coming up, and no, surprisingly, it's not these Freezards, it's the Ice Keys.
Yeah. Here's the weird thing about the Ice Keys. When they touch you, you freeze over. But in order for a keys to turn into an ice keys, it flies through the blue fire.
Huh.
How does it turn into an ice-themed enemy by flying through fire?
Well, the blue fire is fucking with physics anyway, so anything's possible, I guess.
Very much like how the Wind Temple was changed into the Forest Temple, it is possible that the upcoming Water Temple in a future part may originally have been planned to be an Ice Temple.
Oh, okay.
I mean, in the code, there actually is written an ice medallion. Not to mention that the ice medallion actually kind of looks like a snowflake, so it's not so far-fetched.
And the water medallion does have what appears to be a snowflake on it.
Some people believe that after the temple was changed that to a water-themed temple, that in the final version of the game, concepts and ideas from the ice temple were reused into the ice cavern. And an interesting thing is that the ice cavern is the only mini dungeon that has its own separate music. So a lot of people think that maybe this would have been the music originally for the ice temple, so since they already composed it, might as well reuse it.
I love ice-themed dungeons in the Zelda franchise. Some of my favourites are, I'd say this one. Also, Snowhead from Majora's Mask, that one's pretty cool. Snow Peak Ruins, goes without saying, from Twilight Princess.
Damn it, you took my favorite!
I'd say the Ice Ring Isle from Wind Waker, but that one's so short, I can barely remember anything about it, apart from the fact that you also get the iron boots there as well.
There's a lot more in common. You have to jump on platforms to get to it, and once you get the iron boots, there's apparently an easy exit once you have the boots.
Oh, Nintendo, you're in your way of recreating set pieces instead of creating new ones. Now, if you come here with 3 bottles, you're pretty much golden. If you come here with 2, you're probably going to experience a bit of backtracking.
It gets really annoying. And the thing that really pisses me off is that Navi has this text that says this blue flame looks unnatural. What about blue fire is unnatural? There's several things that burn blue. Look, like ethanol, which is essentially liquor, methanol, rubbing alcohol, hell, even natural gas burns blue. What's so unnatural?
Is blue fire meant to burn hotter or something?
Blue fire does burn hotter. A blue flame means that there's more hydrogen being burned, so more energy is released.
Yeah, just like Azula in The Last Airbender.
Exactly. It's also why blue stars tend to be the hottest.
Now, this area is optional, but we do get a little piece of heart down here, so it's up to you, really.
Yeah, it's actually the only instance of Link finding a piece of heart inside a dungeon in Ocarina of Time. And I'll give that it's technically a mini dungeon, but even then, it's the only piece of heart in a mini dungeon, so there you go.
Yeah, when I got to, like, Twilight Princess and started finding pieces of hearts in dungeon, it kind of blew my mind, and I wasn't sure how to think about it.
Really awkward, but then again, the dungeons are the best part of Twilight Princess, so if you're gonna throw a piece of hearts in there to make me explore it more, I have no objections.
True, true.
The piece of heart is also one of the only reasons why, if you see a speedrunner in the ice cavern, they're running 100%, just so they can get that piece of heart, snag the few gold skulltulas, and the end dungeon rewards. Other than that, the ice cavern is completely skipped over.
Which is a shame, because it looks pretty and it's pretty fun to play through.
It's actually in this room where one of the Master Quest ideas is really used, where there's a switch hiding behind some ice pillars, and you really can't see it unless you shift the camera. There's 2 other ones. There's one that's hidden behind a stalactite enemy, and there's actually a crystal switch that's in the floor. That there's a little bit peeking out, so you can trigger it with a bomb.
Master Quest is really Hin Switch the game.
It is, but I think it kind of differs from temple to temple. Again, I'm really not a fan of the changes they made to the Fire Temple, but with stuff like the Block of Time platforming sections that they added to the Force Temple, and the changes they made here, it really does make the game a lot more enjoyable to play.
And then you have stuff like cow switches in Lakes of Acid. Thanks, Jabber Jabber's Belly.
Then also, like I said, the difficulty is actually reduced, except in these little corridors, they send rolling boulders after you because everybody loves Indiana Jones.
Also, block pushing puzzles.
Yeah. See, the trick to this puzzle is that there's one silver rupee off to the right that's encased in ice, so you need to make sure you get that one before you actually start trying to navigate the block to the exit.
Now, since this is pretty much just your bog standard block puzzle with, a bit of ice here and there, can we please go back to talking about cool ice-themed dungeons in the Zelda franchise, please?
I thought you'd never ask. So we totally forgot to talk about 2D ones, which are some of the best. In A Link to the Past, you have the Ice Cave, which pretty much serves the exact same purpose as the Ice Cavern here. They both are an intermediate mini dungeon to get an important item before you go on to the next temple.
And speaking of topical stuff, a new Zelda game for the 3DS got announced today. No, it's not Majora 3D, but I'm sure that will come at some point in the future. This one is set in the same world as A Link to the Past, and while a lot of stuff looks similar, it's basically inspired by the game. You know, it's taking similar concepts, doing new dungeons and so forth, and it looks pretty great in 3D, so that was a nice surprise. But again, not the Zelda I'm waiting for personally.
I'm honestly really surprised, but I'm digging that art style. Also in A Link to the Past, there is actually a full-fledged ice dungeon in the Ice Palace that has a pretty cool boss. It has Cold Stare, which is just a giant cloud and eyeball in a tank of ice.
And there's also the snow dungeon from Spirit Tracks with the boss, who's pretty cool. He's both ice and fire. His name is Fraz, which is MBM.
It's Freeze plus Blaze.
Oh, Nintendo and their ways of naming things. Thank you, Treehouse.
Nintendo also decided to combine fire and ice in the Sword and Shield maze in Oracle of Seasons. Half of it involved ice pushing puzzles, and the other half involved trying to cool magma down.
That's the last dungeon in Seasons, I think. You know, I can't wait till the games come out this summer, and I know I've said this a lot, but they finally announced a release date for them today. And I believe it's May 30th in the US. Not sure about Europe, might be the same. But I can't wait to be able to download Seasons and Ages and play through them properly without the use of a Game Shark, which honestly is how I beat them back in the day. I don't know whether it was just due to general incompetence, which is very likely considering who I am, or just the fact that I, was more engrossed in Pokemon at the time, but yeah, just never completed them properly. Now make sure you stock back up on Blue Fire. You're going to need at least one bottle of Blue Fire when you exit the dungeon. Why? Well, it's not really mandatory, but it will speed things up a hell of a lot.
Just outside the Ice Cavern, in those ice formations, when we were trying to get ready for this part, I had to walk in and out of the Ice Cavern a few times to reload the dungeon for a route. And the thing is that in the original Ocarina of Time, you can enter Jabu Jabu's belly without using a fish by climbing onto the fence, jump slashing onto Jabu's mouth, and that would trigger the loading zone for the dungeon.
I can see where this is going.
In order to prevent this exploit in the 3D remake, Grizzo decided to move the loading line backwards from the platform. However, in moving the loading line, they placed it in an area on the ice platform that Adult Link can easily walk over. I accidentally walked into Jabu's belly about 3 times trying to prepare for this part.
Ocarina of Time, folks. Now, this boss is so ridiculously easy, it's kind of an insult, really. In fact, when I played Ocarina of Time back in the day, and I don't know how I did this, I walked into the room, the white Wolfos appeared, I ran forward, and did a vertical slash on it. It died instantly.
Well, like all of the Wolfos, they go down in one hit if you strike them in the back. That's why I got mad when I saw this part and saw that you went the slow and more difficult way of killing the Wolfos.
Hey, if it involves dimmed fire, it's worth doing, okay? And there they are, the bane of good pacing everywhere, the Iron Boots. More of which in the next part of Ocarina of Time 3D, that much is certain.
But for now, sheet cutscene!
Hooray, and not much to say here, apart from the music, which is pretty nice, but man, this area got a massive graphical overhaul in this version of the game.
Yeah, in the original, the walls had this really bad star pattern. It made it look like a 3D grid system. Now they actually have some stalactites, stalagmites, and it's very shiny.
I forget, what's the difference between a stalactite and a stalagmite?
Think of it this way, stalactites hold on tightly to the ceiling, stalagmites stand up with all their might.
See? Who says you don't learn stuff here on HellfireComms?
A serenade, or a serenata, is actually a musical composition that you perform in someone's honor. It's usually a calm, light music, so it makes sense to use it for the water. It's also the shortest melody in the game. Seriously, it's only 5 notes. There is no other song, including Majora's Mask, that's shorter. So the Serenade is actually the only warp song which is not learned in an area or an area directly before its representative temple.
And it's kind of funny, it won't teleport you anywhere near Zora's domain. It will in fact take you to Lake Hylia, which is where the water temple is located. In fact, if you were paying attention earlier in the playthrough, we actually pointed out the entrance to the temple.
The Serenade of Water is only brought back once in the entire Zelda franchise. In Twilight Princess, the Serenade is played whenever you see the ghost of the dead Zora Queen.
I think it's especially effective just before you get the Zora armor, because it makes that whole scene seem very melancholic, which, for all the shit I give Twilight Princess, it does play up the melancholy aspect very well.
There's actually a heart piece at the bottom of the fountain that you can get either before or after you get the Zora tunic, since it's at a depth that you can dive down, pick it up, and come back up to the surface before you run out of breath.
It's a bit like the whole Goron tunic and the Death Mountain crater situation then. Do you want to get it normally, or do you want to live dangerously?
Yep. If you can get it quickly, then really what's the point of waiting?
Now see, this is why you wanted to bring a bottle of blue flame back with you, because if you unfreeze the king, he'll be so grateful he'll give you a free Zora tunic, which will allow you to breathe underwater indefinitely. Very useful, seeing as the next temple we'll see us spending loads of time underwater.
Alternatively, you could use that blue flame instead to melt the red ice in front of the Zora shop.
But what's the point really when you can get a Zora tunic for free, and if you're like me and you haven't got the upgraded wallet yet, you're not going to be able to afford it.
Yeah, that was actually something when I was playing Ocarina of Time as a kid. I wanted to try and keep the Zora King frozen for the entire game because I wanted to see if that would affect the ending credits, because he appears in those. So I wanted to see if I keep him frozen, do I get like an alternate ending? So I was trying to get the adult wallet because the tunics cost several hundred rupees, and Link can't carry that much. So I was trying to get every single gold skull till I could from the child dungeons and the forest temple and the fire temple, just so I could get the big wallet, so I could buy the Zora tunic and keep the King Zora frozen.
You know what would have been hilarious? If he was in the ending, just still frozen. So it's basically they're all sitting around a block of red ice.
I was hoping for that, but no, it doesn't change the ending.
Even as a kid, MBM was a speed-running prodigy. Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have for ice-based shenanigans today. Please join us next time in Ocarina of Time 3D, where we entered the most infamous dungeon in the entire game, the Water Temple. See you all then.